I wash my wife's dirty clothes. I clean after her family. I mean, why do I keep tolerating this humiliation despite being the richest guy in town?
I got it. Kevin, why don't you tell her that you're a billionaire now?
I can't. I want to keep it as a secret.
Kevin, enough talking. You said you would help me.
Sorry, I'll be in a minute. You see? I gotta go.
And don't forget about the dishes, Cinderella!
Bye.
Finally. The dishes won't wash themselves, Kevin.
My shirt got dirty. I had to get changed. But don't worry, I'll clean everything up.
Wow. Thank you so much. Actually, you've been living in this house for 2 years. But washing dishes makes up for it.
Sometimes I just want to tell Dorothy that I haven't been just living in this house for 2 years. I've paid rent, I've fixed up the whole house, but I cannot tell the truth because it might upset Lily, and I don't want her mother to hate me even more. So, thank you, Mom, for doing so much for me and Lily, and if there's anything I can do in return, please just tell me.
And I will tell you, Kevin, maybe you can start making some money. My daughter could have married someone else, but for some reason, she chose you.
Well, I will work very hard to show her how much I love her, and one day, trust me, I'll be worthy of her.
I have many doubts about that. And our biggest mistake is that we didn't get you to sign a prenup. Yes, we don't want you to get a half of her real estate.
I would never do such a thing. I would make it right.
You know, my husband will kill me for saying that, but I really hope you do. But how?
Believe me, I've changed.
How so?
I've become a billionaire.
Thank you for the coffee, son.
Hi, honey.
Oh, hi dear.
Every time I look at Lily, I get goosebumps. Of course she's beautiful, but that's not the main reason why I love her. She's the most determined person I know. She has made her way from an assistant to a CEO of the company in just a few years. She's unbelievable.
Hey Kevin.
Hi, Rachel. It's good to see you.
Nice shirt.
I got messy when I was washing the dishes.
Wow, it's so nice. Because in my house, we just pay someone to do it for us, but
Not
wow.
everyone is born rich like you, Rachel. Some people have to achieve it. And some people have to try harder. But it's worth it.
I feel guilty for hiding my past from Lily. She doesn't even know that I was born into one of the richest families. You see, I didn't want her to marry me for my money, but ironically enough, on our wedding day, I have lost everything. You see, that day I called my grandfather to make him happy, but he interrupted me and scolded me for putting my entire trust fund into Orient stock, which has fallen in value. Then my grandpa kicked me out of the family. And now, Orient stock has brought in more money than my family could ever imagine. I am the richest person I know. But how can I tell my wife about that? She still thinks I'm an unemployed idiot.
No offense, but Rachel's right. You really look terrible. Go clean yourself up.
Rachel doesn't know what kind of a person I've become.
Ah? But what kind of person have you become?
I have become a billionaire. You'll find out soon enough.
I don't know how you put up with this. I mean, you're the boss of the big company and he's just pathetic. He's like before pictures in the commercials. Why are you with him?
He wasn't always like that. When we first met, he was charming and confident. And I hope that if I'm with him, that Kevin will come back. I love the man he used to be.
But do you love him now?
I don't know what to say. Right now I feel like a babysitter in our relationship. And I realized that if I talk to him, I would lose him completely. I cherish him, but I'm not sure if I really love him now.
Look, honey, you could have any man you wanted. You don't have to be with someone just because you feel sorry for him, okay?
Okay, I don't want to talk about it. I have enough problems at work.
What's going on at work?
We got a contract last month, and there was a mistake in the calculations. Our product, we didn't meet the requirements, so now we have to pay 7 million compensation.
Wow.
Yes. And now I have to find 4 million investments by the end of the week. Otherwise, we'll probably go bankrupt.
And how are you gonna do that?
Lily?
Kevin, me and Rachel, we need some privacy.
Just when I got a chance to help my beloved wife and become the man she always wanted. Grandpa?
Kevin, I was wrong about you. Your family needs you. I know about your success with the stocks, and we need your money to save the family.
Hello, could you check balance on my account?
Right away, sir. I'm sorry, sir. It seems that your account has such a huge balance that our computer can't process it. You'll have to come in person.
Your computer cannot process it?
Yes, that's the first time in my practice. You are the richest client I've ever worked with. Thank you for using our bank.
How pathetic are you? Lily, do you hear that? Your husband is calling to check his bank balance.
Rachel, please.
I didn't want to eavesdrop, but I heard that your company is in trouble. I can help to work it out.
Kevin.
You help. You know, she needs $4 million. $4 million.
Just remember this moment, because later on I'm gonna enjoy saying, I told you so.
You're worthless. What can you do at all?
You know nothing about me. I actually became a billionaire. But I can't tell her. I'm gonna finish washing the dishes.
Rachel.
Didn't know Uber hires people from the street.
I'm not a taxi driver. I'm her husband.
Hello.
Husband. How can you get around such a beautiful woman?
That's none of your business. How'd you know my wife?
Well, I'm a representative of Williams Corporation. And Lily just made me an appointment for today.
Yes. And I'm really glad you came.
I'm glad to see you. Here. Got something for you.
Thanks. Bradley, that's exactly what I wanted.
Well, what can I say? I'm a good guesser.
Bradley, but that's incredibly expensive.
Come on. Nothing is too expensive for a woman like you.
It's a fake.
What?
I know what kind of necklace Lily wants, and it's a fake.
Okay, someone like you know that.
Kevin, Bradley just wants to make me feel good.
You're right. As always. Can I have a look at it?
Sure.
What a beautiful, stunning necklace.
Kevin, what have you done?
I just proved that it's a fake. A real one would never break.
You're gonna pay for it. You're like a beggar.
Oh yeah? And you...
Please, Kevin, stop it. It's my last chance. Please go home. And don't forget about the meeting this evening.
If only Lily knew that I am the Williams of the Williams Company and Bradley, he's just an ordinary employee.
Here. Buy yourself a proper suit.
Keep it. I can afford it.
How's that?
With my own money? I can't say.
Okay. I'm gonna go to work.
Uncle Thomas.
Oh, Kevin, dear. So glad to see you. Unfortunately, your grandfather can't be here, so he asked me to meet you. Oh, you look so much better than the last time we met. That vacation has done you wonders.
Oh, so now we call it that vacation?
Kevin, I want you to know, I never meant for that to happen. It was terrible.
I'm not here to talk about the past. Let's cut to the chase. How much money does the Williams family need?
Oh, yes, you're right. So maybe first coffee or tea? Well, Kevin, it's not a lot of money, really. Just $8 billion.
$8 billion. I got kicked out for investing a lot less.
Oh, Kevin, I'm sorry we were wrong. It turns out that your bad investment is just only one thing can save our family dynasty. So please, can you lend us $8 billion?
I forgot about urgent business. I'll find a way out.
Kevin, without that money, our family dynasty will be destroyed. Kevin, I'm begging you. You're the only one who can save our family empire. I already told you our people fulfill 2 requests you mentioned. Kevin, you can't live like that. I'll do anything you want.
Uncle, it's not that I don't want to help you, but I don't think I have that kind of money.
I get it. Are you going to pretend to be a fool? Haven't you ever checked the value of your stock? Grandfather and I know that even 2% of your stock is worth at least $9 billion. Even now, during our conversation, the value keeps going up. Kevin, please, listen to your conscience. You're a part of the William family. That legacy is also yours, that I try to protect.
Oh, yeah? Did you think about my legacy when I got kicked out of the family? Why should I care about it now? I have a wife. Did you know about that? I got married the day you kicked me out of the family. I'm a son-in-law in another family, so why should I show my loyalty to you?
But Kevin...
If you didn't go bankrupt, you wouldn't even remember about me. You left me to die, so why should I bring you back to life?
All right. All right. I know what we did. That's wrong. I apologize to you and the whole family. Yes, we messed up with everything. I can diminish that. But Kevin, I'm begging you. You need the family. William's legacy will fall apart without your help.
What can you do in return?
I'm listening.
Oh, for example, can you find a Dream Lover necklace?
Dream Lover necklace. I guess our people can handle it. As I said before, I'll make you also the head of Williams Media.
Williams Media is your wife's company. Why are you so confident in giving out other people's things for your own profit?
She'd be just happy to give this job away. Well, anyway, you know how big this company is, correct? You know what celebrities we work with. It will be all yours. How about that?
I'll accept your terms, but only with one condition.
What condition?
You know Bradley?
My assistant?
Fire him.
All right, no problem. Are we good? So, we have a deal.
Yeah, we have a deal.
Thank you very much. I can't even describe how much it means to the habit.
Exactly. The family. And that's one thing we learned today, that family is above money.
Yeah, I got it.
I wasn't lying. I'm actually late for my high school reunion.
Bye.
Kevin, I have a serious question to you. I prepared the coffee. Sorry, it's already cold. Okay, you and Lily are already married for almost 2 years, right?
Correct.
And you still have no children.
What's your point?
Darling, is there any genetic problem in your family? Or maybe you're infertile?
No, my family is healthy and I've never heard about any genetic diseases.
Great. Prove it. I need medical report that you and your family are healthy.
I'm not gonna do that. A medical examination is just a waste of money.
I'm not accepting no as an answer.
Maybe I should tell
You
her?
and your family to be examined. Or it's a money question again.
No, money is not a question anymore. Mom, let it be our secret, okay? Thank you for the coffee. No thanks, I'm driving.
OMG, Kevin Cav! Is that you, man?
Tucker, you haven't tasted the day.
I'll just say I got lucky, huh?
That's great to hear.
Yeah, and I bet that awful pickup truck up front belongs to you, huh?
Well, that's the first ever thing I bought with my own money.
Ooh, okay, that's a good story. So let's go to the others. Let's see who is aging the worst, huh? Dan, hey, Tucker. Look who we got here. Our little Kevy Cav's all grown up, huh? Wow.
The biggest underdog at school.
Dan.
Hello, guys.
Oh, Brittany! I did it again. You remember me?
You haven't changed at all, Tucker.
And what do you do for a living, huh?
Oh, I just signed up a new agency.
Come on, which one?
Williams Media!
Should I tell her that she works for me now?
Great choice.
And you?
I
think your name is Kevin.
Yeah, it's
You
Kevin.
look so awful. Maybe you're homeless?
This is her last working day.
Kevin doesn't like taking shower. Very much, Brittany.
Oh, I can't breathe near him.
Oh.
Poor guy.
Oh, no.
Why?
Kevin! Oh, I'm so happy to see you! My God.
Ladies, don't mind them. Brittany just kind of girl you get close to.
Blah, 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 blah.
Chilly, go get a drink.
Sorry, I need to answer that.
Okay, I'll wait here.
Just don't forget to get back, Kev.
Hey, honey.
Hey, Kevin. Can you pick me up from the work in an hour? We go to the party soon.
Sure, of course.
Don't forget it's you. See you.
Sure. We'll see you in a bit.
Lily,
Yes?
my boss asked me to give you this.
Oh my goodness. This is original.
It is. There are only 10 of this in the whole world.
But who is your boss?
He asked me to keep it myself, but he hopes, though, that you can figure it out by yourself. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you.
You're so beautiful, Lily.
Thanks, Mom.
And I think that you're gonna shine bright in this necklace today.
I'm ready.
Whoa, Kevin. That's not a bad suit. And finally, you're dressed like a man.
And I bought it myself.
Really? So it suits you? And I'm surprised.
Well, there'll be some more surprises. For example, who paid for Lily's necklace?
I don't want to be late. Let's hurry up.
I'll be in a minute. Okay.
My dear friends, I am so glad to see you. I love you. Dorothy, my love. You look gorgeous, my love. And Lily, of course. And Kevin. Yes, Kevin, hi. You know, it is not very often that we get to see you in your normal clothes. You know, this suit looks familiar. I have seen the same one in the mall for sale. It was like 75 for $100, something like that. Fantastic quality, I have to admit.
Kevin, why didn't you buy a proper suit?
I didn't want to pay for it.
He didn't want to pay for it. Let me guess. I think that the owner saw how pathetic you were and decided to give it to you for free right away. Lily, my love, you know, my clothes cost approximately 20 grand. And this is from the very famous designer. And your dress.
Jason walked to Kevin's side and patted him on the shoulder. His voice was so loud that almost everyone in the hall could hear him. Kevin looked at him with a smile and didn't say anything. Jason snorted in disdain. You got these clothes on sale, right? I remember I saw the exact clothing down at the mall. Was it $75 or $100? Quality stuff, right? Hearing this, many people looked at Kevin with scorn. Some even laughed out loud. Lily looked at Kevin with an embarrassed expression on her face. She was definitely angry. To think that she had given him $1,000 to buy himself some decent clothes. He, on the other hand, he actually went and bought a cheap suit for $100. Why did he always make things so difficult for her? Kevin adjusted his collar and responded casually. I'm really disappointed to hear that. Actually, I didn't pay for my clothes. Jason laughed. You didn't pay for it? Could it be that the owner of the store saw that you were too pathetic and out of pity gave you a new suit? The people around them started laughing as well. They looked at Kevin like he was a fool. Lily and Dorothy's faces showed their embarrassment. Dorothy coldly snorted and began to walk away. She didn't want to stand anywhere near Kevin, her stupid son-in-law, for another second. We should go sit down, Lily disappointingly whispered to Kevin. She really didn't want to bring Kevin along to these events. However, unless someone was out of town or dealing with some special circumstances, all the family members had to attend. Lily, I'm really not talking about you. It's fine if your husband lacks experience and is stingy. Aren't you willing to spend a little money on yourself? The dress you're wearing must have cost around $500, didn't it? It's shameful that you have the nerve to wear it to our family get-together. Jason looked Lily up and down. The smile on his face made her feel very annoyed. Seeing that everyone was paying attention to them, Jason straightened up and patted the suit he was wearing. There was arrogance in his expression. In order to attend the family gathering, I went to the most famous designer in the country and spent $20,000 to have this suit made especially for me. Wow, $20,000? Everyone thought. Almost everyone in the room was shocked. After all, even though their finances were pretty solid, spending $20,000 for a suit was really too extravagant. Feeling the envious gazes from the people around him, Jason was extremely proud of himself. The way he looked at Lily showed even more disdain. Lily's face turned red. She was both angry and embarrassed. Jason had deliberately made her embarrassed in front of all these people. He really just wanted to see her make a fool of herself. But there was nothing Lily could do. When she glanced over at Kevin, who still had a smile on his face, she felt even more choked up. Kevin noticed Lily's eyes and turned his head to smile at her. After a moment, she quickly turned her head away. Kevin raised his eyebrows and looked at Jason, who had a smug look on his face. Kevin imitated Jason by patting him back on his shoulder. What are you doing? Who asked you to touch me? Jason almost jumped, like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. He angrily slapped Kevin's hand away and quickly brushed off his shoulder. It was as if he was afraid that his clothes would be contaminated with some kind of bacteria by Kevin's touch. Kevin didn't care at all as he put his hand into his pocket and returned Jason's disgusted gaze. He sneered and said, It's only a $20,000 suit. I was afraid that it would soil my hands. My Lily likes to dress casually. However, she really prefers fine jewelry. After saying this, Kevin pulled a stunned Lily to his side. Now that Kevin had put Jason in his place, he looked around and then looked directly at him. Didn't you see the dream lover on Lily's neck? It's worth 100 of your fancy suits. Everyone's gaze shifted to Lily. To be precise, they were all staring at Lily's neck. Following Kevin's rebuke, the entire audience suddenly fell silent. So quiet that all you could hear was the delicate piano music in the background. The crowd exploded with questions and comments. One relative said, Or am I seeing things? Is she actually wearing a dream lover? Another said, Heavens, that's really a dream lover. There are only 10 of them in the world. It's a woman's dream. All the women present were excited. Even most of the men were shocked. There were a few people there who had never heard of the dream lover necklace, but now they were well aware of it. Everyone looked at her in amazement. For a moment, Lily became the most eye-catching woman in the entire hall. Countless envious gazes fell on her body, which definitely was a boost to her ego. Lily unconsciously shifted her attention to Kevin, who was standing at her side. He seems somewhat different tonight, she thought. Jason stared at the necklace on Lily's neck and lied. I think you're just trying to trick everyone. That's no dream lover. Where did your family get enough money to buy such a rare piece of jewelry? I think you're just wearing a fake. Kevin snapped back. It's none of your business how much money we have. We don't answer to you. Dorothy walked over and called to her son-in-law. Kevin. After giving Kevin a warning look, Dorothy smiled and stepped in front of Jason. Jason, Kevin is younger than you, so he doesn't know how to bite his tongue. Why are you arguing with him anyway? And where are your parents? Why didn't I see them come today? Dorothy wanted to change the topic to give everyone a diplomatic way out, but Jason's heart was burning with anger. How could he let Kevin get to him so easily? My parents are overseas on company business. They aren't lazy like you. You don't have anything to do all day long, do you? You have your little son-in-law to wait on you hand and foot, and you don't even need to babysit him. Jason's words made Dorothy extremely embarrassed. At that moment, a mature older voice interrupted them. What in heaven's name is everyone doing here? Grandma! Jason's face lit up. He turned around and saw that someone was supporting the family matriarch, Mrs. Victoria Jones, as she slowly walked over. He practically ran to her. Mrs. Jones, or Grandma Jones as everyone called her, looked at her favorite grandson. Her wrinkled face broke into a kind, warm smile. But when she saw Kevin standing beside Lily, her smile vanished. Kevin knew that Grandma Jones had always disliked him, but he didn't really care. All right, since everyone is almost here, we can all take a seat, Grandma Jones said as she looked at the crowd of relatives. After she had finished speaking, she took Jason by the hand and walked towards the main table. After everyone took a seat, Grandma Jones said a few pleasant words and encouraged everyone to work hard for the family. Then the banquet began. Kevin looked at the table full of exquisite food. Boy, was he hungry. Once he heard the banquet was starting, he dug in. He really didn't care if he grossed out the other people at the table. Lily and Dorothy stared at him a few times, but Kevin pretended not to see. After all, it was just a meal, and he would eat however he wanted. And his table manners weren't that bad. He just ate a little fast. At the main table, Grandma Jones spoke again. Before the banquet, I heard from a reliable source that the CEO of Williams Media has changed. I was told that he is a young man about the same age as JJ. She looked lovingly at her grandson Jason. The new CEO will be officially appointed tomorrow. As soon as her voice faded, everyone there started chattering about this unexpected news. They had so many questions. Why did Williams Media suddenly change their CEO? This was unheard of. But everyone knew that this was a great opportunity. For years, the Jones family had controlled several small media and advertising companies. They all wanted to work with Williams Media. Because Williams Media was so powerful, as long as the Jones family could reach an agreement with them, it was safe to say that the Jones family could rise to a whole new level. But they had already sent countless people to seek a partnership with Williams. Their offers had all been harshly rejected. After all, Williams Media was run by the Williams family, one of the most prestigious families in the city. It was normal for them to look down on the tiny little Jones family. But now that they were changing their CEO and such a young man, there might be a slight possibility to join forces with them. Naturally, the Jones family wouldn't pass up such a golden opportunity. They just had to give it a try. When Kevin, who was busy with his meal, heard the news about Williams Media, he raised his head. There was a hint of amusement in his eyes. Grandma Jones was pretty well informed. Grandma Jones watched everyone's reaction with a great big smile on her face. She slowly opened her mouth and asked them, Does anyone have an idea of how to pay a visit to the new Williams Media CEO? If anyone can form a partnership between our families, I will reward them well. I'm willing to go, said one of them. Another shouted out, Grandma, I want to go. And yet another said excitedly, Let me go. I'm the best one here at teamwork. Lily wanted desperately to speak up so that she could play a part in all of this. But when she thought of her low-ranking position in the Jones family, she ended up sitting quietly. waiting to see what would happen. One after another, the family members shared their opinions. Grandma Jones nodded her head in satisfaction. Finally, she set her eyes on Jason, who was sitting beside her with an eager look on his face. Patting Jason's hand, she said, "JJ, I will leave this matter up to you. Don't let me down." "Don't worry, Grandma. I'll definitely get them to make a deal." Jason smacked his chest confidently. Kevin put down his fork and picked up a napkin to wipe his mouth. He looked over at Jason, who was now standing in front of Grandma Jones, and he couldn't help laughing to himself. He wanted to make a deal? What gave him such confidence? Jason didn't know that he had already deeply offended the new head of Williams Media. And he still wanted to talk about cooperating with Williams Media, Kevin thought to himself with a slight chuckle. After the gathering was over, Kevin took Lily and Dorothy home. As they drove along, Lily didn't pay any attention to what Kevin was saying. She was preoccupied with what Grandma Jones had just said about forming a partnership with Williams Media. What will I do? Lily wondered. On their way home from the family get-together, Lily thought about her own dreams. If only she could get a chance to talk with Williams Media about forming an alliance. As long as the partnership turned out to be successful, her own company, Siren Corporation, would be saved. If Lily couldn't get any more financial aid, she had to ask Bradley Smith for help. However, she thought he'd just bought the extravagant Dream Lover necklace and given it to her. She didn't know if he still had enough funds on hand to help her company. The more Lily thought about it, the more irritated she became. When Kevin noticed Lily frowning, he could easily guess why she was upset, but he didn't say a word. When Kevin was ready to go to sleep that night, he hopped up on his bed. He lay there and looked at his wife, who was just about to lie down in her own bed, and said thoughtfully, "Lily, don't worry. Jason Jones definitely won't be able to talk with Williams Media tomorrow about making any deal. Aside from you, no one else can succeed." After he'd said this, he didn't care how Lily would react. Kevin yawned, closed his eyes, and went to sleep. Lily was stunned for a moment. She didn't expect Kevin to actually read her mind, but what he said really left her speechless. She wasn't entirely sure he was right, that if she went to talk with Williams Media about the partnership, it would definitely succeed. How could he be so sure that this couldn't be done by anyone other than her? He sure didn't know how to comfort someone. Rolling her eyes, Lily turned off the light. She put the whole thing out of her mind and went to sleep. Early the next morning after Lily left for work, Kevin also headed out. Uncle Thomas gave him a call early in the morning and told him that Miss Sandra Wilson, his new chief of staff, was ready and that everyone was waiting for him to take office. So Kevin slowly rode his brand new electric scooter all the way to Williams Media. Williams Media was located in the fanciest part of downtown Chicago. It was in a majestic 50-story office building that was taller than all the surrounding buildings. The building's parking garage was filled with all kinds of luxury cars, sports cars, and high-end SUVs. Lots of them were electric. Without exception, all of these cars belonged to Williams Media executives and the celebrity superstars that they managed. There was a reason why Williams Media was known as an industry leader in entertainment. They managed their artists very closely and saw them regularly. So the lot was always filled with luxury cars. Looking at all the fancy rides, Kevin thought that it seemed unusual for a CEO like him to ride an electric scooter to work. Just as Kevin was about to park his scooter in a small space at the edge of the lot, a red suddenly appeared out of nowhere. What? Kevin screamed as he quickly leapt off his scooter. He must have jumped nearly 6 feet away. He turned around and saw that there was a small dent in the front of the along with a long scratch in the paint. His electric scooter had been hit hard, and the rear wheel was bent out of shape. This was the electric scooter that he had just bought yesterday. Sadly, Kevin walked over to his scooter, which was now lying on the ground. Just as he was about to say something, the door of the opened and a slender white leg emerged. "Why don't you watch where you're going?" the driver said. The woman's tone was harsh. When she was completely out of the car, the bystander suddenly gasped. "She's so beautiful. Who is this big star?" they said. The willowy beauty wore a tight blue skirt that showed off her figure. Her high heels made her legs look even more attractive. Kevin looked at this beautiful woman in front of him, and he couldn't hide his excitement. Brittany! He hadn't expected to meet her here today. Could it be that she was here to sign a contract with Williams Media? That was quite a coincidence. Although his electric scooter was wrecked, Kevin wasn't injured. Brittany was a new performer who was about to sign a contract with his company, so naturally he wasn't going to argue with her. Brittany recognized Kevin. She frowned and asked, "Kevin, what are you doing here?" She looked at him and then looked at the electric scooter on the ground. She remembered that 2 nights ago she heard someone mention that the security guard at Williams Media suddenly had a heart attack and was sent to the hospital. So the company hired a young man as a security guard. Could it be Kevin? "Why don't you watch what you're doing? Look at all the damage to my car. I'm sure you can't afford to fix it." Brittany looked at the dents and scratches on the front of the felt her heart sink. This was her brand new car. It had now been trashed the first time she drove it. Hearing this, Kevin immediately furrowed his brow. "It was clearly you who hit me. Why are you blaming me instead?" At the moment, a deep male voice came from nearby.
"What happened here?"
The onlooker stepped out of the way and Kevin saw a man in a blue suit walking over with 2 security guards. When Victor Martin saw the scene in front of him, he was instantly stunned by Brittany's beauty. He stepped forward and said with a smile,
"You're Brittany Davis, aren't you? A few days ago I heard that you'd be coming in to sign your contract. I didn't expect you to be here yet."
Brittany gave him a faint smile. Now she looked gentle and polite, completely different from a minute ago when she was chastising Kevin. "I'm sorry," she said. "This happened as I was coming in. What can you do about it?" On hearing this, Mr. Martin instantly felt more self-assured and cocky. He had to help Brittany right away. He said,
"Don't worry. This is just a small matter."
Looking at Kevin, the man said with a serious face,
"Do you know where you are? Who said you could ride an electric bike here?"
Kevin looked around and said, "Who says I can't ride an electric bike in here? Besides, she's the one who hit me. Can't you figure that out?"
"If I say you can't ride here, then you can't ride here. Why would someone in a hit someone on a scooter?"
While the man spoke, he pointed at Kevin with a disdainful expression. Kevin looked at the man, and his good mood was ruined. Brittany's mouth trembled as she complained, "Mr. Martin, is he the new guard you just hired? I'm afraid he'll annoy a lot of people." When Victor Martin heard Brittany's words, he suddenly remembered that the old guard had suddenly left yesterday. He was told that the new guard would come to work today. He looked at Kevin, who was wearing a baggy t-shirt and shorts, and then looked at the electric scooter lying on the ground. He was sure that Kevin was the new security guard.
"I definitely won't allow someone like this to continue working here. Don't worry, ma'am. I'll fire him right now."
After he finished speaking, he pointed at Kevin and said,
"You're fired. Please pack up your things and leave."
Kevin still had a scowl on his face. He read the nameplate on the man's chest. His title was Victor Martin, Production Assistant. What was the company structure like at Williams Media anyway? A production assistant could fire another employee at will? He replied, "You want to fire me, Assistant Victor Martin, right? I would like to ask you a simple question. Who gave you the right to fire someone all by yourself?" Kevin looked at the man with a smile, not caring what the people around him thought. Kevin's question made Mr. Martin's face harden. He didn't really have the right to fire anyone he wanted. After all, he was just a production assistant. He glared at Kevin angrily. He was about to curse at him when he was interrupted by Brittany. "You said Mr. Martin isn't qualified to fire you, right? Then the department manager should be qualified. You just wait." Brittany looked at Kevin with disgust. After she finished speaking, she took out her phone, wrote 2 text messages, and sent them out. In less than 5 minutes, a woman wearing a gray professional suit walked up to them with a cold, bitter expression on her face. Kevin waited patiently by his scooter to see what would happen. Brittany was still angry about her dented and had texted her contacts at Williams Media for help. The mature, stunning woman who came to her rescue looked to be about 40 years old. Her professional attire gave her an air of experience and charm. She was Claire Davis, the manager of Williams Media's publicity department. She was also Brittany's aunt. It was thanks to her that Brittany had gotten the chance to sign a contract with Williams Media. "Auntie!" Brittany called out like a spoiled child. She then walked to her aunt's side and held her arm as she whispered a few words into her ear. When Victor Martin, the other Williams Media employees, and the two security guards saw Claire, they immediately greeted her with smiling faces.
"Miss Davis, good morning."
Claire Davis politely returned their greetings with a casual, "Good morning." Then she turned her attention to Kevin and said sternly, "Did you hit her car? Apologize to her right now, or we will call the police and ask them to handle this matter." Hearing her threat, Kevin let out a laugh. "I don't know you. Why should I listen to you? If you want to call the police, go ahead. Anyway, I didn't crash into her. She crashed into me. So what am I afraid of?" One of the bystanders said, "He doesn't even know the publicity manager. He really should be fired."
"Just wait. Miss Davis will definitely fire him,"
another Williams Media employee added. Seeing Kevin's nonchalant look, Claire's expression became even colder. She raised her hand, pointed right at Kevin, and said, "You're the new security guard, aren't you? I'll tell you right now, you've been fired. Get out of here or I'll call the police and they'll take you down to the police station." "Ha! Send me to the police station?" Kevin raised his eyebrows and pointed at himself. Brittany sneered. "Don't you understand English? Just my luck to see you today. I'll bet you can't even afford to fix my car. I won't argue with you anymore. Just hurry up and get out of here." Kevin smirked and didn't say anything. Just when Claire was about to scold him some more, they were all startled by the sound of a car horn. A brand new pulled up and stopped in front of everyone. They saw a beautiful young woman in a wine-red professional ensemble. She adjusted her gold-rimmed glasses and stepped out of the car. She went straight to Kevin, shook his hand, and greeted him with a warm smile. "Sorry, sir. I went to get the company's new quarterly reports for you, but I lost track of the time. I hope you can forgive me." At a glance, Kevin already knew that this was Miss Wilson, the chief of staff that his uncle had told him about. Miss Wilson straightened her back and looked at the young man in front of her nervously. She explained again, "I'm sorry, sir, but I didn't expect the expressway to be so backed up. This isn't how I wanted to greet our new CEO. It won't happen again." Everyone was stunned. What was going on? CEO? Claire definitely knew who Miss Wilson was. When she saw her showing so much respect towards Kevin, she was enraged. Claire grabbed Miss Wilson's arm and said angrily, "Miss Wilson, you're making a huge mistake. This is the new company security guard. What's wrong with you?" Miss Wilson frowned and pulled her arm away. She took her phone and a stack of documents out of her bag. "I assure you that I'm not mistaken. These are the documents that our Chief Operating Officer, Mr. Thomas Williams, personally gave me regarding our new CEO. This photo looks quite a lot like this gentleman, doesn't it?" Brittany, who was standing to the side, rushed over and looked at the photo on Miss Wilson's phone. It sure looked a lot like Kevin, but the man in the photo had a much more professional appearance. He also looked a lot younger and more handsome. "Miss Wilson, you must be wrong. This is Kevin Williams, my former classmate. Look at his sloppy appearance. How could he possibly be the CEO of Williams Media? Maybe he just looks a lot like him." Brittany pointed at Kevin's clothes with a look of utter disdain. They were all confused. How could the new CEO show up to the office wearing a t-shirt and baggy shorts, riding a tiny, broken electric scooter? Miss Wilson pushed up her glasses and her expression remained very calm. "That sounds right. The information our CEO gave me says that the new president's name is Kevin, and this photo was actually taken 3 years ago, so of course he looks a little older now." Miss Wilson flipped open the documents, and Brittany and Claire immediately went over to look at them. When they saw the name Kevin written conspicuously on the front page, it was like they'd been struck by lightning. Claire Davis pretended to be calm and quickly flipped through the pages. As she read, her face got paler and paler. When she'd finished scanning them, she came to the realization that the young man in scruffy clothes standing in front of her was, in fact, their new CEO. Claire looked up at Kevin in disbelief, but when she saw the scorn in Kevin's eyes, she looked back down at her feet. What had she just done? She was an executive, the company's publicity manager. But in front of all these people, she had been shouting that she wanted to fire the new CEO and that she wanted to have him arrested. For a moment, Claire struggled to speak. She gritted her teeth, carefully stepped forward, and forced a smile. She said, Sir, I'm really sorry. We've made a huge mistake. Nothing like this will ever happen again in the future. There will be a future? Kevin looked at her out of the corner of his eye. Claire's face froze and she stuttered. Please don't do this. I know what I did was wrong. Sir, will you please give me another chance? Ignoring the puzzled looks from everyone around her, what Claire cared about the most right now was to protect her job and her position. Brittany, who was standing off to the side, also hurried to stand near Kevin. Her expression no longer looked so arrogant. Mr. Williams, it's all my fault. Don't be angry. Please accept my apologies. Kevin looked at her with an enigmatic smile. He didn't say a word. Brittany's voice became softer and softer as he looked at her. Finally, she couldn't bear to look him in the eyes. Kevin glanced at the time on his watch. He had no intention of continuing to waste time at the door. After thinking for a while, he looked at Miss Wilson and pointed toward Victor Martin, who was trying desperately not to be noticed. This man tried to fire me to protect the image of Williams Media. After saying this, he motioned towards Miss Wilson, and they both turned and headed towards the grand entrance to the Williams Media head office. Claire, Brittany, and the others quickly followed. Only Victor Martin, who had tears streaming down his face, was left behind. He looked sadly at the group as they walked away from him. As soon as he entered the elegant entry hall of Williams Media, Kevin let out a deep sigh. Williams Media was truly worthy of being the #1 entertainment company in Chicago. The company's ambiance, its lavish details and luxurious decor, everything about it just oozed success. Ever since he was expelled by the Williams family, Kevin had not set foot in such an opulent place in a long time. It could best be described as exquisite, from its world-class design to its perfectly chosen color scheme. And this wasn't limited to the entry hall. The overall style of Williams Media's headquarters was truly stunning. The news of the new CEO taking office today had already spread throughout the entire company. Everyone who saw Kevin smiled and greeted him, wanting to make a good first impression on the new CEO. Of course, many people were surprised when they first saw Kevin, but none of them showed it. His simple, unpretentious appearance seemed to contrast with his new surroundings. He took the elevator to the 18th floor, where his office was located. After entering the office, Kevin sat on the big leather chair and looked at Claire and Brittany, who had entered the room with him. Do you have anything else to talk to me about? He flipped open some of the folders on his enormous desk and asked casually as he looked at the contents of the folders. Brittany and Claire looked at each other, and Claire gave her niece a slight smile to comfort her. She took 2 steps forward and said, Sir, about what happened today, I'm really very sorry. Now, about the matter of Brittany signing her contract. Claire paused before finishing her sentence. Kevin didn't even raise his head as he chuckled to himself. Sign the contract? He asked. Brittany smiled awkwardly as she replied. Mr. Williams, did you forget that I came here today to sign my contract? She bit her lower lip and looked at Kevin uncertainly. Kevin put down the folder that he'd been reviewing and leaned back in his very comfortable leather chair. This chair is really nice, he thought to himself. He smiled at the two of them but didn't answer them right away. Seeing Kevin's reaction, Claire wasn't sure what to think. Sir, how about this? I can accept any punishment you give me, but please don't cancel Brittany's contract, okay? Kevin laughed out loud. It's funny, but someone who didn't know me well might think I'm a bully. Claire instantly blushed. Just as Claire was about to say something else, there was a knock on the CEO's office door. Miss Wilson walked over to the door and whispered a few words to someone outside. Then she closed the door and came to Kevin's side. Sir, Jason Jones, the Jones family representative, is here. He said he wants to discuss the company's financial future with you. As soon as Miss Wilson finished speaking, Kevin got a stern look on his face. He was very unhappy to hear Jason Jones's name. Get that fool out of my office immediately. And please inform the Jones family that if they want to cooperate with us, they shouldn't let that show his face around here. They can try again with a new representative. As long as I approve of the new rep, I'll have no problem negotiating with them. Meanwhile, Jason was waiting outside Kevin's office, fantasizing about the new sports car Grandma Jones would surely give him for setting up this deal. But he was shocked when Miss Wilson passed along the CEO's message. As he watched Miss Wilson turn around to leave, Jason was stunned for a moment before he realized what had just happened. As soon as he swore, everyone in the hall turned to look at him. Jason realized that he was still in Williams Media territory. He immediately stopped talking and left the building while holding back the anger that was welling up inside him. At the Jones family mansion, Grandma Jones reacted by calling everyone over for an emergency family meeting. Seeing that all the members of the family had arrived, Grandma Jones let out a sigh and said, JJ went to discuss the deal with Williams Media, but he didn't succeed. I think some of you already know about it. Jason added, Grandma, Williams Media obviously thinks they're better than us. They actually called me a fool. On top of that, they told me to get out and never show my face again. Jason's face was turning red from anger. Grandma Jones, who was sitting next to him, was obviously distressed. When the rest of the family heard this, they immediately started discussing amongst themselves. They were smart people, so they understood right away what had happened. Williams Media was the biggest entertainment company in Chicago, and they had told Jason to scram. Jason didn't dare to fight them head on. All he could do was run home and throw a tantrum. Even Grandma Jones didn't dare to ask Williams Media to explain themselves. She said to her grandson, I'm sorry you have to suffer for this, JJ. Grandma Jones's heart ached the most for Jason. Seeing how upset he was, she patted his arm and comforted him. The new CEO of Williams Media is a young man in his early 20s. That's a very young age for someone to take the helm of such a powerful corporation. Naturally, he has his pride, and it's normal that he doesn't like small families like ours. Grandma Jones paused for a moment and looked around the room. But the CEO of Williams Media also said that as long as the candidate is satisfactory, he won't have any problem working with them. So I want to ask everyone, who do you think is most suitable to represent us in these negotiations? The people in the room stopped talking and looked at each other. It was unusually quiet. Williams Media had already told Jason Jones to get lost. After that, who would have the nerve to go back in there? Grandma Jones was disappointed when nobody stepped up to volunteer. What? No one is willing to go? She asked them. While everyone else remained silent, Jason suddenly had what he thought was a particularly nasty idea. He stood up and said loudly, Grandma, I think Lily is the ideal choice to talk with Williams Media about our offer. Jason's words suddenly made Lily the center of attention. She threw an angry look at Jason, who was standing beside Grandma, smiling maliciously. While she knew that Jason always liked to cause trouble, she didn't expect him to be so shameless as to involve her in this mess. Lily tried to speak, but only managed to stammer, But Grandma, Lily was angry, but at the same time she was trying to figure out how to get out of this horrible predicament. She was about to finish her thought when Jason interrupted her again. Lily, Grandma just wants to give you a chance to help the family. Don't you care about our family? Seeing the distraught look on Lily's face, Jason smiled. He continued, I know that your Siren Corporation just lost millions. You still seem to be short 4 or 5 million in capital, right? I'm doing this for your own good. If you're willing to help all of us, the Jones family, and if the deal is successful, Grandma won't let your company go bankrupt. What choice did Lily have? Lily was still in shock after being nominated by Jason to represent the Jones family in their negotiations with Williams Media. She was at a loss for words. After Jason finished speaking, he walked over and stood in front of Grandma Jones. I think Lily is really suitable. What do you think, Grandma? In Grandma Jones's heart, Jason was the one that she liked the most, so she naturally took his suggestion more seriously than the others. She reflected for a while and nodded in agreement. Then she looked at Lily and smiled. Lily, you will go to Williams Media tomorrow. Do your best, and above all, don't let me down. Grandma, Lily was struggling to come up with a way to get out of this, but she saw Grandma Jones wave her hand dismissively and say, Okay, today's meeting is adjourned. Do whatever you need to handle this. Don't accept no for an answer. Your family needs you. No one cared about Lily's feelings or what she wanted to say. Once the meeting was over, everyone filed out. Lily bit her lip as she watched Jason leave the room with a big smile on his face. She angrily stomped her feet and walked out of the Jones mansion, wondering what she would do next. Lily was confused. When she returned home, the more she thought about it, the more uncomfortable she felt. In the eyes of everyone in the Jones family, this was an impossible task. But now this hopeless task fell on her. She had no idea how she would approach the new CEO of Williams Media to talk about working together with her family. The more Lily thought about it, the more irritated she became. Finally, Lily decided to call Rachel and ask her to come over to keep her company. She also wanted to know if her friend had any good suggestions. After Rachel came over and the two of them chatted for a while, Lily felt a little less freaked out. Rachel got up and walked to the fridge. She took a can of soda and asked Lily as she drank, Why isn't Kevin at home today? Lily smiled helplessly. When I left early this morning, he was already gone. I don't know where he went, but he still hasn't come back. Rachel curled her lips in disgust as she sat on the sofa. She leaned closer to Lily and said, I really admire you. You haven't thought of getting a divorce after these 2 awful years? Lily only sighed and didn't say anything, but Rachel pressed it further. You should also think about yourself. Kevin is holding you back. Your parents want you to have a child, but you still haven't been able to get pregnant after 2 whole years. Plus, your company still owes you so much money. If you find a rich and powerful husband, your life won't be so hard. It's pointless for you to say all this now. We're already married. What are you getting at? Those who get married can get a divorce, Rachel said indifferently. Lily shook her head and smiled. She didn't say anything else about it. After a few minutes, they heard someone at the door. The 2 women looked up at the same time and saw Kevin whistling as he walked in. With a contemptuous, mocking smile on her face, Rachel watched Kevin walk closer to them. As usual, Kevin was wearing a t-shirt and shorts. He looked like such a loser. Kevin naturally saw Rachel's disdain for him, but he didn't care. He strode up to Lily and sat on the sofa with a smile. He looked at her and said, Lily, your company still needs $4 million, right? Lily didn't even bother to look at him. She picked up an emery board and started to do her nails. Why are you asking this? How dare you try to rub it in? Why do you always say things that make Lily unhappy? Are you afraid that her life will be too easy? Rachel sat up straight and stared at Kevin. Lily sighed and gave Rachel a penetrating look that told her not to criticize Kevin anymore. After all, during the Joneses family quarterly meeting, when Jason embarrassed her in front of so many people, it was Kevin who helped Lily. Now she naturally didn't want Rachel to keep picking on him like this. Kevin turned his head and looked at Rachel. He smiled mysteriously and said, I hope you haven't forgotten what I said 2 days ago. If I can find $4 million to help Lily get through this crisis, you should call me boss. When she heard him bring this up, Rachel instantly laughed. I sure did say that. And if you can't find her $4 million, how about you call me boss? I've never seen someone as helpless as you who still likes to put on airs. Kevin sneered. He took out a bank card from his pocket and handed it to Lily. Lily, I originally wanted to bring you cash, but it was too much to carry around. This card has $4 million on it. Take it. Lily took the card in a daze and didn't know how to react. Rachel laughed again. She felt that Kevin was acting like a fool again. I can't believe you're still carrying on with this lie. I'm dying of laughter. Who's the boss? Kevin asked quickly. It's not you. After saying this, Rachel realized that she had been tricked. Her face immediately turned red and she glared at Kevin. Kevin chuckled and looked at Lily, who obviously didn't believe him and was about to toss the card in the trash. Lily, do you still have that card reader you use at work? Why don't you log in and check the balance of the account? I wouldn't lie to you. Lily held the card in her hand and looked into Kevin's eyes. She had her doubts. But she also wanted to believe him, even though he didn't have a job. After all, he still relied on her to support him. Now he hands her a card and says that there are $4 million on it. Anyone would find his words hard to believe. Lily, since he asked you to try, you should try. He asked for it. I'm still waiting to hear him call me boss. Rachel crossed her arms in front of her chest and looked at Kevin with a sneer. Lily tightened her grip on the bank card and looked at Kevin, who was waiting expectantly. Kevin, you really want me to check it out? Don't worry. I would never lie to you. Kevin gave her a determined look. Lily nodded and said, okay. Then she got up and walked to the study and turned on the card reader. The password is your birthday, Kevin reminded her in a low voice. Lily looked up at him and then entered the password. After a moment, the card's balance appeared on the screen. $4 million. Lily was dumbfounded. When Rachel came over and saw the long string of numbers, she stared open-mouthed at the screen. How is this possible? She asked. As soon as Dorothy Jones entered the house, she saw that something was up. She frowned and walked over to Lily, Kevin, and Rachel in the study. What's going on? When her gaze fell on the ridiculously high number on the card reader, she was absolutely stunned. Where did you get so much money from? Lily looked up at her mother and then looked at Kevin. She pursed her lips and replied, Kevin gave me the card. What? Kevin gave it to you? Dorothy Jones looked at Kevin in disbelief. Where did you get so much money? Kevin smiled and shook his finger at her playfully. I can't tell you, so please don't ask, but I can assure you that this money came from an honest source. Lily, just use it and don't worry. Then he turned to look at Rachel. He scratched his ear and said, I believe you said you wanted to start calling me boss. You can start. I'm waiting. Rachel stared at him in wide-eyed disbelief. She was really flustered, and she raised a scolding finger toward Kevin. She was tempted to berate him again. Before Rachel did something rash, Lily quickly took the card and the reader and pulled Kevin into the bedroom. We are the only ones in this room now. Kevin, tell me the truth. Where did you get this money from? Lily asked softly. She locked the door behind her and walked slowly up to Kevin. He looked at her guardedly, but he was secretly delighted. Lily was concerned about him, wasn't she? He thought for a moment, smiled, and asked her gently, If I told you I'm actually an incredibly wealthy business executive and that this money is a drop in the bucket for me, would you believe me? Lily frowned at him and pulled away. Don't joke around. Forget it. If you really don't want to tell me, I don't want to keep asking you. Anyway, you have to promise me that this isn't dirty money. I hope that you're not involved in anything illegal. Otherwise, I would rather see my company go bankrupt than to take a dime from you. Kevin sighed when he heard her say this. Don't worry. I guarantee that the money is legal. You just need to use it quickly to save your company. Lily had her doubts, but he was so convincing. She thought for a long moment before putting the card away. As she did this, she said, Okay, I believe you. You can rest assured, too. I will definitely pay you back as soon as possible. It may take some time, but I'll repay you. My money is your money. Kevin waved his hand nonchalantly and walked out of the room. When he got to the living room, he saw that Rachel had already left. She ran away before she called me boss, he figured. Later, Dorothy was also wondering where Kevin had gotten the $4 million, and Lily pulled her aside. She spoke to her mother very quietly and seemed to calm her fears. Afterward, Dorothy's attitude towards Kevin was a little gentler than before. Recently, Chicago had been in financial turmoil, and as the leading company in Chicago, Williams Media had suddenly taken on a young new CEO. Just when countless companies in the entertainment industry were dying to work with them, Williams Media was rejecting all of them. They even turned away the larger companies that they had always done business with. It made sense that the ones who were able to join forces with Williams Media had to be tied to a wealthy Chicago family or a large company. But this time, what shocked everyone was that they were partnering with a relatively unknown family, the Jones family. Many people had never heard of Lily before, but she had actually managed to come to an agreement with Williams Media. In Chicago, the Jones family was only considered to be a third-rate family, and Lily was only from a minor branch of the Jones family tree. In the upper crust, most people didn't even know that she existed. Some people also heard that Jason had approached Williams Media to discuss a partnership, but was rejected. This was even more confusing. Even the great Jason was chased away. How did Lily, this unimportant member of the Jones family, manage to get her foot in the door with Williams Media? What was the new Williams Media CEO thinking? Why did he choose to work with the insignificant little Jones family instead of so many powerful companies? Lily herself couldn't figure it out. No one would believe her. On the day when she went to discuss the partnership, she didn't get to see the CEO. All she had to do was sign the contract. Everything went over so smoothly, making her feel like she was dreaming. The Jones family had booked the entire banquet hall of the very luxurious Whistler Hotel in Chicago for that evening. Grandma Jones brought everyone together to celebrate Lily's success in sealing a deal between the Jones family and Williams Media. Everyone in the Jones family accepted Grandma Jones's request to attend the celebration banquet. On top of that, Grandma Jones had invited a lot of famous people in the Chicago area to attend their bash. There was only one goal, and that was to let everyone know that the Jones family had formed a partnership with Williams Media. In the future, the family would definitely have a chance to become one of the top families in the Windy City, as some people referred to their town. Lily had become the most noteworthy guest in the banquet hall. This was mainly because she had done so much for the Jones family, so she was the most important invitee of the celebration. Kevin followed behind Lily, who was dressed ever so elegantly. Just as he was about to take a seat, he heard a cold rebuke from someone beside him.
"Please find another seat. This one is reserved for Miss Phoebe Anderson."
Of course, it was Jason speaking. Behind him stood a beautiful young lady wearing an elegant silk dress that fit her very snugly from its low slit up to its high neckline. Kevin casually glanced up at her, looked away, then turned back again to get another look. He felt that this woman seemed somewhat familiar. He thought he'd seen her somewhere before. Jason saw that Kevin hadn't moved and was still staring at Phoebe. He took a step forward and deliberately bumped into him.
"Didn't you hear me? This seat is reserved for Miss Anderson."
Kevin wasn't prepared for this kind of physical aggression. He was a little shaken, but he still didn't leave his seat. He saw that Jason was trying to please Phoebe, but the young woman's face remained cold. Kevin raised his eyebrows. "Miss Anderson?" Kevin replied with a questioning tone. Jason glanced at Kevin out of the corner of his eye. He got more impatient.
"You don't even know who Phoebe Anderson is?"
A lot of people around them had noticed what was going on. Lily, who was nearby, had an embarrassed look on her face. She was very annoyed with Jason. Again. Lily had already noticed that Phoebe was sitting at another table. It was Jason who deliberately arranged to find a new seat for her. And Lily was certain that he must have done this to get even for her success with Williams Media. Jason was deeply jealous of her, and he had deliberately bullied Kevin just to embarrass her. Kevin remained in his seat, but when he looked over at Lily, he saw the pained expression on her face. In a concerned tone, he asked her, "What's wrong, Lily? Are you feeling okay?" Lily shook her head no. She was considering letting Kevin give up his seat. It was better to avoid any unnecessary conflict, which was sure to follow because Grandma Jones liked Jason the most. Dorothy Jones, who was also nearby this awkward scene, didn't say anything, but she kept motioning to Kevin that she wanted him to take the initiative and give Phoebe his seat. Phoebe was a distinguished guest invited by Grandma Jones. The Anderson family was one of the most prestigious families in Chicago. They had made billions in the global jewelry market and literally had countless assets. How could this squabble be resolved without insulting such an honored guest and her family, and without upsetting Grandma Jones? Lily was very worried that this whole argument with Jason about Phoebe's seat at the banquet would blow up and get her in trouble with the family. As the eldest daughter of the Anderson family, Phoebe was in the spotlight wherever she went. Dorothy Jones knew very well what kind of influence someone like her would have on Grandma Jones, and if Kevin offended Phoebe in any way, that would definitely have a negative impact on Lily. However, Kevin only cared about Lily and didn't even notice the look that Dorothy was giving him. Actually, he noticed but didn't want to do anything about it. Finally, Jason exploded. "Don't you understand English? I've already told you 10 times to give up your seat. What's wrong with you? Just move so Miss Anderson can have a seat." Phoebe scowled and looked impatiently at Jason. Then her cool gaze fell on Kevin. Seeing Grandma Jones also look over at them, Lily was worried about the impression that all this would make on the family matriarch. This would definitely tarnish Lily's image. She turned her head to look at Kevin, who was completely ignoring Jason, and asked him quietly, "Kevin, why don't you change seats?" When Kevin heard his wife speak, he immediately smiled and nodded. "All right, Lily, as you wish." Then he stood up and walked to a different seat and sat down. But he didn't look at Jason and Phoebe Anderson again. Jason was livid, but after all, he had to protect his image in front of Phoebe, so he naturally couldn't act too impetuously. Phoebe had just sat down when she unconsciously looked at Lily with a gaze that pierced right through her. In fact, Phoebe was actually looking at the Dream Lover necklace on Lily's neck. The Dream Lover necklace was something Phoebe had desired for a long time, but up until now, even though her family was in the jewelry business, there was no way for her to actually get one herself. She couldn't have imagined that she would see the long-cherished Dream Lover necklace hanging gracefully on Lily's neck. With her professional and trained eye, she could tell right away that Lily's necklace was real. Lily felt weird to be stared at so intently and felt slightly self-conscious. "Miss Anderson, I can't help but notice that you're staring at me. Is there something wrong?" Phoebe smiled apologetically. "Sorry, Miss Williams. Actually, I wanted to ask, where did you buy your Dream Lover necklace?" Sensing the envy in Phoebe's gaze, Lily's ego got a little boost. She never expected that a rich young lady like Phoebe Anderson would envy a piece of jewelry that she owned. Lily found this feeling to be very satisfying. Lily cleared her throat softly. "This was given to me by a friend." Phoebe nodded in understanding as her gaze stayed glued to the Dream Lover. "I'd like to ask you a favor. Could you perhaps ask your friend to help me buy a Dream Lover necklace?" After saying this, she seemed worried that Lily might turn down her request and quickly added, "Don't worry, I'm not asking for a gift. How much did he pay for this beautiful necklace? I will pay him double." "Double the price?" Everyone around the table who heard the conversation between Phoebe and Lily was shocked. A Dream Lover necklace was worth almost $3 million. Double the price was close to $6 million. She was indeed the most prominent member of the Anderson family. Such wealth! As Lily and Phoebe were sitting together, the contrast between them was obvious. One was gentle and graceful, and the other was detached and elegant. The men in the room were infatuated with them, and the women were envious of them. Dorothy saw that her daughter hadn't responded yet and kicked her leg gently under the table. "What are you spacing out for? Hurry up and answer her question." Lily looked at her mother, and only then did she realize that everyone was staring at her. She had no choice but to take her phone out of her bag. It took her a few seconds to find Bradley Smith's phone number in her contact list. She placed the call and waited anxiously. Kevin watched Lily's actions with an amused smile. He was pretty sure he knew who she was calling. Anyway, he was sure it wouldn't be him. If his guess was right, it was probably Bradley Smith. The call was answered pretty quickly. Lily saw Phoebe staring at her very intently and decided to put it on speaker. Dorothy was close enough to see Bradley Smith's name on the screen and couldn't hide her displeasure. She glanced in Kevin's direction. So it was Bradley Smith who gave Lily the necklace. Dorothy couldn't imagine what would happen if Kevin found out about this. She hoped that he and Lily wouldn't argue over it, especially here at the banquet. It would definitely be awkward for everyone. Bradley Smith was sitting alone at a roadside cafe drinking a beer when his phone rang. Someone from the Williams family had recently told him to keep his distance from them because he had offended one of them. Smith's finances were suddenly in jeopardy, and then the company's tax problem was discovered. He'd lost everything, practically overnight. Up until now, Smith still hadn't figured out who it was that he had offended. He didn't even look at the caller ID. He put down his beer and answered the phone with a gloomy voice. "Hello? Who is it?" Lily's face stiffened and she felt a little uncomfortable. After all, Bradley Smith had always been gentle and considerate to her. Why did he sound so down today?
"Bradley, it's me, Lily. I have something to ask you. Would it be possible for you to buy another Dream Lover necklace?"
When he realized that it was Lily calling, Bradley Smith immediately brightened up. He quickly cleared his throat and adjusted his tone of voice. "Lily, I'm really sorry. I was just having a rough day. So I'm sorry if my tone was so negative. Did you just ask me about the fake Dream Lover necklace?" "Fake?" Lily immediately frowned and looked at Phoebe, who also had the same surprised expression. This was impossible. They couldn't both be mistaken about this. The necklace Lily was wearing was definitely genuine. Bradley Smith sighed on the other end of the phone.
"Yes, it's a copy. Unfortunately, your husband threw it on the ground, but luckily it wasn't broken. I took it home with me. If you want it, I'll send it over to you right now."
Lily was incredibly confused. If the real necklace wasn't given to her by Bradley Smith, then who would have given it to her? She just couldn't figure out who would be willing to spend $2.8 million to give her a Dream Lover necklace. After hanging up the phone, Lily saw how disappointed Phoebe looked. Embarrassed and confused, she murmured, "I'm really sorry, Miss Anderson. I really don't know who gave me this necklace." Phoebe let out a sigh and shrugged it off. "That's fine, Mrs. Williams. I have to say that I've just had no luck finding my own Dream Lover." So Phoebe was disappointed and Lily was extremely perplexed. Because the banquet had already begun, they just picked up their forks and ate, lost in thought. While Lily was absent-mindedly eating her meal, she unconsciously looked over at Kevin, who was digging into his own plate of food. She remembered very clearly that Kevin had said that he would give her the real Dream Lover necklace. Could it really be him? After all, he could easily find $4 million to help her company, couldn't he? But then she thought about it again. The Dream Lover was worth almost $3 million. No matter how cleverly Kevin could borrow money, it would be very difficult to get another $3 million after already giving her all that money to help her company. On top of that, he'd also have to figure out a way to find and purchase an authentic Dream Lover. How could he possibly do all that? Lily was still thinking too much. Whoever had given her the Dream Lover was definitely not Kevin. By now, Kevin was almost full. He put down his knife and fork and picked up his napkin to wipe his mouth. His eyes fell on Phoebe, who was sitting next to Lily. He suddenly remembered why she seemed so familiar. The Anderson family controlled one of the companies that wanted to cooperate with Williams Media. In the file that Miss Wilson had prepared about the Anderson family, there was a publicity photo of Phoebe Anderson. This Miss Anderson was definitely an interesting woman. As Kevin understood it, she was raised by her father to be the company's deputy president at a young age. She was already a reliable executive with a lot of experience. Although the dress she wore to the event wasn't very conspicuous, the simple ring on her finger was worth more than enough to buy a villa in the south of Italy. Others might not notice it at all, but Kevin could tell at a glance. The ring Phoebe was wearing was a valuable antique. Kevin knew this because of all the time that he spent with his grandfather when he was young. Even in his childhood, he had come into contact with numerous professional figures in various industries. Starting when he was about 10 years old, he got to spend nearly 3 years with Claude Fields, an internationally renowned appraiser, to learn how to identify and appraise antiques. The ring Phoebe was wearing had a unique design. It was made of pure gold and it had a ruby of nearly perfect color set in a golden flower. He was certain that it was from the Middle Ages and had to have been worn by royalty. Based on the ruby alone, it was worth a fortune, but with the history likely attached to it, Kevin estimated that the ring was worth about $3 million. Just as Kevin was thinking about giving Lily a beautiful ring one of these days, Grandma Jones stood up and walked to the stage. With a great big smile, she spoke to the guests. "Quiet, please. Lily, please tell everyone about the secret of your successful negotiation with Williams Media. How did you do it? We would all love to know." Grandma Jones couldn't stop smiling. She gestured for Lily to go up on the stage and then went back to take her seat. Lily stood up nervously and hesitated for a few seconds. She didn't go on the stage, but instead remained standing by her seat, slightly embarrassed. "Actually, it was nothing at all. When I went over that day, I didn't get to see the president of Williams Media. It was his secretary who brought me the contract and asked me to sign it." Everyone was astonished to hear this. "What? They signed the contract right away?" Someone said, "So, just like Jason, she didn't get to see the new CEO of Williams Media either." Another added, "I thought she was very capable. Seems like she was just lucky that she went there when the new president of Williams Media was in a good mood. That's why she got the contract." Jason, who was sitting beside Grandma Jones, couldn't help but sneer when he heard the comments coming from the crowd. He turned his head to see Grandma Jones's reaction, but he was already coming up with an idea to get even with Lily for making him look bad. Jason spoke up loudly so that everyone in the room could hear. "Grandma, I think this is really unfair. When I went to Williams Media, maybe the new CEO was just in a bad mood. That's why he had his assistant chase me out. This time when Lily went there, he must have realized how sincere our family was about working with them. That's why he gave us the contract." Jason glanced at Lily dismissively and raised his voice a little. "I think that the second person to go to Williams Media would have gotten the contract anyway, no matter who they were." Lily clenched her fist as she glared at Jason, but she couldn't find the words to answer him. Grandma Jones, who had always loved Jason, listened intently to what her grandson had said. She nodded in agreement. "JJ is right. Lily, you earned the contract with Williams Media pretty easily, but it's not all because of you. JJ also put in a lot of work and he suffered a lot. Obviously, half of the credit goes to him." Lily was extremely annoyed by Grandma Jones's speech, but she didn't dare to argue with her. How could she? Jason was clearly stealing the credit for her accomplishment. Of course, Jason was very happy with the outcome. This definitely wasn't going well for Lily. Lily was still upset that Jason had stolen the credit for her success with Williams Media, and he did it right in front of the whole family at the celebration banquet. Jason continued to chip away at Lily's accomplishment, telling Grandma Jones, "For the sake of the family, no matter how much I suffer, I'm willing to carry on the struggle. I heard that Williams Media signed a new client named Brittany Davis just a few days ago. I want to fight for it. Tomorrow, I'll help us negotiate the packaging contract for this new client. What do you think?" Since the Jones family had already established a basic partnership with Williams Media, the packaging deal for a new client would definitely be very easy to negotiate. Jason knew that now he had a real opportunity. As long as he got Brittany's packaging deal, his grandmother would definitely give him all the credit for the family's success. Grandma Jones was very satisfied to see him working so hard. "JJ, you are indeed the most responsible one here. You're an asset to our family and to our company. I'll leave it all up to you. You're going to do a great job." After hearing Grandma Jones's words, Lily felt very uneasy. She and Dorothy looked at each other, and her mother could only lightly pat her hand under the table. Why the heck did Grandma Jones like Jason so much? Now that she had made up her mind to leave this matter up to him, what else could they do? Tonight's banquet originally belonged to Lily, but not anymore. Jason had snatched Lily's credit with a few words, and now he was the star of the show. Although Lily felt torn up inside, she didn't show it. After all, she knew she wasn't Grandma Jones's favorite in the family. Jason grabbed the opportunity to look generous. "Today it's my treat. Eat and drink all that you want. I'm paying." He waved his wallet at the head waiter. Jason sat down and waved at the waiter again. "Waiter, go and get a bottle of your best wine for every table. I want the best and most expensive wine you have." Hurry up. The waiter was about to show him the wine list, but when he heard him say that, he nodded and went to get from the cellar. After all the wine was served, Jason raised his glass and stood up happily. Let's have a toast. Let's celebrate the signing of our new client contract with Williams Media tomorrow. Eat up. Drink up. Let's party all night. Everyone stood up and raised their glasses to toast Jason. After all, his status in the family had just gone up a notch or two. When the banquet was coming to an end, Jason was unable to stand upright. His eyes were blurry as he called for the waiter to come over. He then pulled the card from his wallet and said, "Use my card to pay the bill." "That's a Lux Bank Sapphire card." Someone recognized Jason's credit card and immediately cried out in surprise. Those who were close to him couldn't help but widen their eyes when they saw the ultra high-end card in his hand. The Lux Bank card wasn't something that just anyone could get. The most basic card, the silver card, had a limit of $25,000. A gold card went up to $50,000, and the sapphire card that Jason took out had a limit of $100,000. Jason's personal wealth was about $6 million, but that didn't reflect how much cash he had on hand. So it took Jason nearly 3 years to save up enough to get this exclusive card. He'd only had it for 2 days. Jason looked over at Phoebe, who was seated next to him, and he couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. This was such a good opportunity to show off in front of Miss Anderson. Naturally, he couldn't resist. When Phoebe saw Jason's Lux Bank Sapphire card, she couldn't help but look at him differently. Although she was a rising star in the Anderson family, she only had around $2 million in the bank. That's why she had the Lux Bank Gold card, which was 1 grade lower than Jason's. Although she had previously said that she could double the price to buy her own Dream Lover necklace, she was secretly going to ask her father to pay for it. Feeling Phoebe's gaze on him, Jason felt even more excited. He sat up straight. "You can do whatever you want. I'll pay for everyone here tonight. However, that table isn't included." The table he pointed at was the one where Kevin was sitting. Because Kevin hadn't been fully accepted by the Jones family, very few people were willing to sit at the same table as him. The people who did choose to sit with him weren't as wealthy or popular as the rest of the guests. Jason simply didn't care if he offended them. He continued to push Kevin's buttons. "Kevin, do you have any money? Don't tell me you can't even afford to pay and you still need to beg money from your wife." Jason stood up unsteadily, staggering to Kevin's side and patted him on the shoulder. Kevin smiled and didn't say anything. Jason pulled his hand away with a look of contempt in his eyes and turned to look at Phoebe. "Miss Anderson, you like the Dream Lover, don't you? I have a lot of friends and connections. Don't worry, I will definitely help you buy it." Phoebe nodded her head slightly in response to the spectacle. There was still no smile on her stoic yet elegant face. "Thank you for the kind offer, Mr. Jones," she replied. Jason was about to say something else, but at that moment, the waiter who had taken his sapphire card to pay the bill walked quickly over to him. "Mr. Jones, I'm very sorry. The limit on this card isn't high enough to pay for tonight's bill." "Are you kidding me? This card has a $100,000 limit, and you're telling me it's not enough for tonight's meal?" Jason looked at the waiter in disbelief. He reached out to grab the man's collar, but he was stopped by the people around him at his table. After all, this was the Whistler Hotel. Jason was a little drunk, but most of the people were still very sober. This was not the time or place to cause trouble. The waiter took a step back and looked at Jason with an odd mix of horror and surprise in his eyes. "I'm sorry, but I forgot to tell you. Mr. Jones, you've spent over $110,000 tonight." That sobered Jason up right away. $110,000? What were they eating? Gold? "You're a thief. Get your manager here right now." Kevin watched the whole scene without saying a word, and finally he couldn't help laughing. Jason was really a dope. He pretended to be an uber-rich person all day. Then he made a mess of the whole evening. It started when he asked the waiter to serve him a bottle of the hotel's best wine for each table. Others may not have seen it coming, but Kevin knew right away it would be a problem. The hotel served them one of the top wines in the world, a Grand in France. The retail price of this was as high as $5,000 per bottle. Not a wise decision on Jason's part. Seeing him reacting like this, the waiter was in no good mood to argue with him. He turned around and called the hotel manager over. When the hotel manager arrived at his table, Jason stepped up to him angrily and asked loudly, "This is how you do business? You're nothing but a thief. I'm going to file a complaint with the State Liquor Control Commission. I have friends downtown." The hotel manager smiled and said calmly, "Mr. Jones, you said that I should serve you our best wine. That's what I did. Because you needed 20 bottles for the entire room, we gave you our best price. You actually saved almost $18,000. Your complaint will be thrown out by the commission." "You bastard! If this wine is so rare, how come you're able to sell more than 20 bottles at a time? Who are you trying to fool? You're making a big mistake." Jason reached out to grab the hotel manager's lapels. Just then, an extremely calm voice came from the entrance of the banquet hall. "What seems to be the problem here?" Everyone looked over and saw a man in an Armani suit walking towards Jason. Behind him was a group of burly-looking men in black suits. As soon as Grandma Jones saw the man in the Armani suit, she quickly stood up and walked up to him. "Mr. Cook, I'm very sorry about this misunderstanding. My grandson sometimes drinks a little too much and makes bad decisions. I'm sure that we can find another way to settle this." After she said that, she offered her hand to the hotel owner as gesture of goodwill. When everyone saw how much respect Grandma Jones was showing toward the man, they realized Jason put them in a bad position. Mitchell Cook wasn't just the owner of the Whistler Hotel. He was also well known as one of the most influential men in Chicago. Definitely a big shot you didn't want to mess with. When he saw Mr. Cook, Jason sobered up completely. But now he was covered in a layer of cold sweat. His hands trembling, he quickly let go of the hotel manager's suit. He even reached out to help smooth the wrinkles on his lapels. The hotel manager snorted. His boss had appeared, and he felt even more confident. He said to Jason sarcastically, "Your Jones family is pretty famous in Chicago. Since you asked for the best wine, how could you refuse to pay?" Jason didn't have the time to wipe the beads of sweat that kept flowing down his face. He snapped his finger and said, "I won't go back on my word. We'll pay for it." As he spoke, he gave a pleading look towards his grandmother. He couldn't possibly scrape together $400,000 this evening. He unconsciously took a step towards Grandma Jones like he was going to use her to shield him from Mitchell Cook. Grandma Jones sighed and forced a smile at Mr. Cook. "It was our fault for what happened tonight. Mr. Cook, please don't hold it against us, and don't worry, we'll get you the money right away." After saying that, she turned to the Jones family members who were in the banquet hall. "We can't let JJ pay all the expenses tonight. Each of you should contribute $5,000. The rest of the money will be paid by JJ and me." Everyone nodded in agreement. They had no choice, but they wanted to look like they were okay with it. However, two of them couldn't hide their concern and wore very embarrassed expressions on their faces. Lily and Dorothy. It would be pretty tough for them to come up with $5,000 for this meal. What was really unfair was that they'd barely touched the wine. The $4 million that Kevin gave Lily had already been used for her emergency expenses, so they didn't have any extra money left over. Jason, who had learned nothing from all of this, asked her, "Lily, why are you looking so upset? Don't tell me you can't even come up with $5,000. Don't you want to pitch in?" Lily saw that everyone was looking at her because of Jason's insulting remarks. She tried to control her breathing and calm down. "We have $5,000, Kevin suddenly interrupted Lily. His back was facing Jason, Mr. Cook, and the others, so they hadn't noticed him yet. The moment Mitchell Cook heard Kevin's voice, his expression changed dramatically. "May I ask who you are?" Mr. Cook queried with a very slight quiver in his usually calm voice. The others probably didn't pick up on it, but Kevin could. He shook his head and grinned. Jason saw that Mr. Cook had suddenly taken an interest in Kevin. He thought that Kevin's actions had somehow offended the man. He tried to protect himself by addressing the boss. "Mr. Cook, please don't be angry. This man isn't even a true member of our family. He married into it. If you don't like him, do whatever you want. Just don't take it out on the rest of us." "Get lost." Mr. Cook glared at Jason as he gestured for him to get out of the way. Kevin stood up, turned around, and looked calmly at Mr. Cook. An expression of pure joy and excitement instantly appeared on the man's face. He hadn't seen Kevin in 7 years, and he certainly hadn't expected to see him at the Whistler Hotel today. "Long time no see," Kevin said as he greeted his old friend with a smile. His expression was relaxed and natural. He completely ignored the stunned members of the Jones family. Mr. Cook quickly walked over and gave Kevin a warm hug. He looked absolutely thrilled to see him. "It's really you. I can't believe it. How are you doing, boss?" The Jones family was still trying to straighten out the mess that Jason had put them in with the exorbitant bill for the banquet. When the hotel owner, Mr. Mitchell Cook, showed up, he welcomed Kevin like an old friend and called him boss. Boss? Everyone was stunned. Kevin was Mr. Cook's boss? The manager of the hotel, who had been working for Mitchell Cook for many years, stood there with his mouth open wide in amazement. He looked at Mr. Cook, who had uncharacteristically lost his composure, and he just couldn't believe it. Was this still the boss who was actually so calm, cool, and collected in front of them? "I'm not your boss anymore, Mr. Cook. Just call me Kevin." When Mr. Cook straightened his back and offered his hand for a more professional greeting, Kevin quickly pulled him back and whispered something in his ear. Life is strange. When Mitchell Cook first walked into the room, Kevin actually saw him, but he wasn't sure what to do. That's why he turned around. To give you some background, when he was a teenager, Kevin saved Mitchell Cook's life. At the time, Cook was running with a bunch of petty criminals. He had a tough reputation, but after a while, he naturally ended up with a few enemies. Cook had been set up by some of these thugs, and they'd beaten him half to death. If Kevin, who usually traveled with a couple of his family bodyguards, hadn't shown up by chance, Cook would have died. And he wouldn't currently be the owner of the Whistler Hotel. Here's how that happened. Sometime later, Cook wanted to start a business, but he didn't have enough money. It was Kevin who provided him with almost $100,000, no strings attached, to get his business off the ground. Kevin was shocked to see how his friend Mitch, as he called him, had been able to meet with such great success after just 6 or 7 years. After Cook got the money from Kevin, he cut all his ties with the area, mainly to get away from his enemies and have a clean start. He went to Chicago alone and started from scratch. Finally, he built the enormous and very luxurious Whistler Hotel in Chicago. Cook really wanted to track Kevin down to thank him, but he was worried that he would bring trouble to Kevin and his family. Then, about 3 years ago, he had finally cleaned up his reputation so he could get in touch with the Williams family so he could reconnect with Kevin. That's when he found out that Kevin had been kicked out of his own family. It wasn't at all what he had expected to hear. He assigned a few of his employees to search for Kevin, but they were unable to find any trace of him, either online or in the rough parts of town. And now, here they were finally seeing each other in person after all these years. Cook thought about everything Kevin had done for him and said, "It's hard to change an old habit, boss. Kevin?" You could hear everyone heave a sigh of relief. After all, it didn't sound right for such a powerful man to call Kevin boss. Still, everyone was wondering how Kevin and Mr. Cook knew each other. Kevin asked his friend, "If you could just ask the waiter to add my table's bill to the $5,000, I can give you my card to pay." With a big smile, Mr. Cook shook his head and replied, "Your money's no good here. Put your card away." He was going to give Kevin his meal for free. Then he told the hotel manager that Kevin's meals would all be free in the future. Kevin stared at him for a moment and opened his mouth to speak. But Cook immediately understood and quickly changed his offer. "How about if I give you a discount, a 50% discount?" He turned to the hotel manager and said, "Please go add up Mr. Williams' bill and bring it back to me." The hotel manager quickly nodded. "Right away, sir." Grandma Jones and Jason were shocked to hear that the owner of the hotel actually wanted to give Kevin a 50% discount. This was unheard of. Realizing that the rest of the bill still hadn't been paid, Grandma smiled and walked forward. Mr. Cook, I didn't know that you're friends with our Kevin. Since we're paying this bill together, may we have a discount too? He looked at Grandma Jones with a smirk and replied calmly, Didn't that guy just say that Kevin has nothing to do with your family? I'm sorry, but your bills should be paid separately. Grandma Jones's face froze. She knew that Cook wouldn't give them the same discount. Kevin took a look at the bill. After the discount, it was about $2,500. Jason watched this in disbelief. Ha! $2,500? Kevin, you were just bragging. I'd like to see how you could even pay that much. But Jason was livid. How could Mr. Cook give Kevin a 50% discount but not do the same for him? Meanwhile, Lily and Dorothy were very concerned. They really hoped he could cover the bill. Kevin looked at Jason, who was sneering as he waited to see this all play out. He took his wallet out of his pocket, pulled out a bank card, and handed it to the hotel manager. Just a moment, sir. The hotel manager slid the card into his portable reader. When Jason saw Kevin's bank card, he continued to taunt him. A deadbeat who doesn't even have a Lux bank card should be careful how much he spends. One of the others there added, Yeah, I'll bet the hotel manager will tell him that his card wouldn't swipe. Another one commented, Kevin really is a So what if he knows Mr. Cook? He doesn't have enough money to pay the bill. I don't think he'll get out of this mess. Listening to what they were all saying about Kevin, Cook turned and gave them an impatient, cold stare. He really wanted to go over and shut Jason's mouth for him. When Jason saw how Cook was looking at him, his face instantly turned pale. His voice trailed off and he sat in awkward silence. The rest of the Joneses clammed up too. Lily stared nervously at the hotel manager, afraid that Kevin's card would be rejected for lack of funds. Finally, the hotel manager spoke up. All right, Mr. Williams, the transaction went through. Here's your card. He politely returned the card to Kevin, who nodded his thanks and put the card back into his wallet. What? The transaction went through? How was this possible? Everyone was confused. Lily tugged on Kevin's sleeve and leaned into his ear. Where did you get so much money from? Don't worry, Lily. I just hope you enjoyed the banquet, Kevin said with a big grin. Lily didn't press the issue. Now she really didn't know what to think. Kevin thought for a second and said to her quietly, I have something I need to do later. You and Dorothy can go home first. You don't have to wait for me. Drive carefully. Lily looked over at Mr. Cook and then she looked at Kevin. She nodded and then left with her mother. After the rest of the Jones family had finally paid the bill, they took off one by one. Kevin got a ride with Cook, but he didn't go straight home.
Boss, have you been in Chicago for the past 3 years?
Cook was driving while Kevin sat in the back seat. Looking at the view outside the window, Kevin responded, Yeah, about 2.5 years. What about you? Have you been in Chicago all this time? Cook laughed.
That's right. When you told me it would be easier to get a fresh start if I moved, it sounded like a good idea. A friend of mine was living in Chicago, so I decided to come here. It was tough at first, but I've done okay. I hope you're not disappointed.
You've done an amazing job. I never imagined you were the owner of the Whistler Hotel. I was right to believe in you. Also, I told you not to call me boss. Just call me Kevin. We know each other too well. Kevin looked at Cook, who was still excited. He just smiled and shook his head. Cook kept his eyes on the road.
All right, and you just call me whatever you want.
Seeing that they'd been driving for a while, Kevin asked casually, By the way, where are you taking me?
Do you remember Adriana Wright? A couple of years ago, I accidentally found out that she was also looking for you, so I met with her. She founded the West Chicago International Group. I just told her about meeting you in my hotel, and she was really happy about it. We talked it over and decided to surprise you. Cook turned around and gave Kevin a mischievous smile. Kevin raised his eyebrow. Adriana Wright? What a nice surprise to hear that she was doing well, too. Kevin met Adriana when he lost his briefcase in a wine store. She was working in the shop and noticed that he'd left it behind. When she went outside with the briefcase, Kevin had just gotten into his car and left. Adriana ran after him for 3 blocks to try to catch up with him. When Kevin finally remembered that he'd forgotten his briefcase, he made a U-turn and saw her standing there out of breath, but holding his briefcase in her hand. Kevin found out that Adriana wanted to start her own business, so he formed a partnership with her. He also fronted her $100,000 just like he'd done for Cook. He didn't really expect Adriana to be so sharp at running a business. What he was sure of was that she was honest and hardworking. After all, she had chased him for 3 blocks to return his briefcase. In just a few short years, she actually built the West Chicago International Group. After a few more minutes of driving, Kevin and Cook stopped at an enormous office complex in the west suburbs. They got out of the car together and walked into the headquarters of the West Chicago International Group, which was tastefully designed in a blend of modern glass and Greek architecture. After walking into the main hall, they were greeted by one of Adriana's administrative assistants. "Mr. Cook, the president is waiting for you on the 3rd floor. Do you want me to accompany this gentleman and show him the displays on the 1st floor?" It was a very kind offer, but Cook just shook his head no and answered, "No need. Mr. Williams can take a look around by himself. It will make him a little uncomfortable if you follow him." Kevin quickly agreed. "Yes, you don't need to follow me. I'll go and take a look for myself. You guys can go and do what you want." "Kevin, you can visit the place as you wish. These things in the hall are new products that have just been released. You can take some back for your wife if you want. She should like that." Cook pointed at the various skincare products and makeup on the display stands. Kevin thought to himself, what the heck?
To keep listening, download the Pocket FM app